Welcome, parents! I am absolutely thrilled you're joining me for this explainer today. We're going to act as your knowledgeable friend to untangle the kind of confusing world of rewards, bribes, and reinforcement. And we're going to do it using everyday family moments. Look, we're skipping the heavy clinical jargon today, and we're focusing entirely on the beautiful reality of how our children actually learn. Okay, let's just jump right into a scene we all know way too well. You're in the grocery store checkout line and your kiddo reaches for a candy bar. You state a calm boundary. You just say, no. But asking quickly becomes whining. Whining escalates to shouting. People are starting to stare. And in a total moment of panic, just to avoid a massive public scene, you whisper, look, if you stop right now, I'll buy it. And suddenly, as if by magic, your child is quiet and you get to leave the store in peace. So I gotta ask you, was that candy a reward, a bribe, or reinforcement? Think about the label we put on that candy for a second. As parents, we often focus really heavily on what we meant to do in that moment, but today we're shifting our perspective entirely away from the parent's intention and moving toward what the child actually learns from that exact sequence of events. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. The grocery checkout reality. 2. Decoding parenting behavior language. 3. The same situation homework comparison. 4. Spotting common category confusion. And 5. The trace plan and reset. All right, section 1, the grocery checkout reality and decoding behavior language. So, the very first big difference we need to map out is intention versus effect. You see, a reward is defined simply by the giver's plan. It's just what you intend to give after a behavior. But reinforcement, well, reinforcement is entirely defined by the effect. It literally means a behavior actually becomes more likely over time. So for example, if you give your child a sticker for putting their shoes away, that's intended as a reward. But if those shoes are no more likely to be put away tomorrow, that sticker didn't actually function as reinforcement. Now, what about a bribe? In everyday parenting, a bribe is an urgent offer made after resistance or a scene has already begun, purely to stop a crisis. And hey, let's completely destigmatize this right now. It is a very common emergency negotiation. Honestly, sometimes we just need to get through the grocery line, right? However, the gentle warning here is that relying on it regularly fundamentally changes the lesson your child learns. And this timeline brilliantly illustrates exactly why. You make a request. The child refuses or escalates. You panic and offer an upgraded deal. So what happens next time? The escalation increases. When we invent a deal in a panic, we accidentally teach our kids that our first direction is merely an opening offer, and that loud resistance is the actual path to a much better deal. So the absolutely crucial point here is understanding reinforcement, which again simply means a specific behavior is becoming more likely to happen. Positive reinforcement means adding something pleasant, like a child asking calmly, getting some help, and then asking calmly more often in the future. But negative reinforcement is incredibly misunderstood. It is absolutely not punishment. It just means removing an uncomfortable thing to increase a behavior. If a child screams during difficult homework and you remove the difficult worksheet just to calm them down, well, you've just negatively reinforced the screaming. The screaming worked to remove the uncomfortable thing. Moving right along to section 2, beyond tangible rewards, praise, appreciation, and celebration. There is a fascinating difference between praise and appreciation. Praise is really an evaluation. Like, you are so smart. You make me so happy when you obey. It can feel kind of conditional, and kids might actually focus on protecting that adult approval rather than the action itself. Appreciation, on the other hand, simply communicates impact and gratitude. Thank you for putting the towels away. That made the bathroom safer for everyone. It keeps your love totally steady while giving them really specific, helpful feedback. Then we have celebration. A celebration honors effort and connection, like, say, going out for ice cream after a super long school project. But the trouble really begins when we turn celebration into a rigid contract, like paying $20 for every single A on a report card. Suddenly, that beautiful celebration just becomes a transaction. We want to keep our celebrations relational and surprising, rather than a promised payment for every single repetition. Section 3, the same situation homework comparison. Let's anchor this in reality. Imagine the exact same situation handled 3 totally different ways. Let's say your 10-year-old completely refuses to start homework. First is the crisis bribe. If you stop arguing, I'll buy you a new game. Sure, it stops the scene today, but it teaches that arguing opens negotiations. Next up is a modest, planned reward. After your 20-minute homework block, you get your regular screen break. This is calm, it's predictable. Finally, that planned reward only becomes true reinforcement if, over several days, your child reliably starts their homework promptly. That habit actually has to form for it to be reinforcement. All right, section 4, spotting common category confusion. So maybe your child asks, "What do I get?" before doing completely ordinary tasks. Or your first directions literally always lead to a negotiation. Or maybe the adults in the house are constantly arguing over what to call a sticker chart. I want to be crystal clear here. These are not proofs of bad parenting, and they absolutely do not mean your kids are calculating manipulators. Not at all. They are simply wonderful invitations for you to just slow down and map out what sequence of events is actually happening in your home. Because the absolute biggest mistake we make in all this confusion is thinking immediate compliance proves learning. A bribe can stop a scene, for sure. A reward can temporarily increase a behavior. But neither of those facts actually proves the child understands the underlying skill or can do it independently. Only practice, routines, and gradually faded supports build lasting skills. Remember, short-term change is just information. It is not the finish line. Section 5, the trace plan and 7-day reset. Trace is this incredible, essential filter you should mentally run through before offering or evaluating any reward. T is for timing. Was this planned calmly, or was it invented in a total panic? R is for real behavior. What exactly happened right before you offered it? A is for ask. Did the target behavior actually increase over time? C is for consider. What is your child's experience here? Does this feel like support to them or just an endless negotiation? And E is for establish. What is your exit plan to fade this reward out eventually? And hey, when you're trying to establish these boundaries and that inevitable bargaining begins, I want you to literally borrow this exact phrase. I hear that you want a different deal. I am not changing the plan during the argument. I will help you choose the first step. This perfectly illustrates how we can hold a really steady boundary without withdrawing our loving support. You aren't giving in, but you aren't leaving them alone in their frustration either. To actually put this into practice, try this totally low-stakes 7-day reset. Day 1, just track a recurring conflict. Day 2, clearly name the exact behavior you want. Day 3, check your timing. Are you accidentally offering deals during resistance? Day 4, swap out that vague praise for specific appreciation. Day 5, pick just one task that will not be renegotiated. Day 6, ensure any reward systems you have are modest and have an exit plan. And Day 7, celebrate a family win purely through connection without spending a single dime. Now, I do want to remind you that modest, planned incentives are fantastic. They beautifully support new skills or learning differences when they're predictable, paired with actual teaching and gradually faded out. However, and this is important, if you are dealing with severe behavioral issues like self-injury or severe school refusal, please seek qualified professional help. Do not attempt do-it-yourself clinical functional analysis at home. So let's look at one highly realistic action you can try immediately today: the pause. The very next time your kid starts resisting and you feel that super familiar temptation to upgrade your offer just to make the whining stop, pause. Just pause. Hold the boundary steady. Help them with the very first manageable step and save any new plans for a calm conversation later on. I'm going to leave you with this final, really important thought. Beyond your good intentions, beyond whether a label is quote-unquote good or bad, what is your child actually learning from the timing, the message, and the repeated pattern of what you give? Watch the pattern, track the learning, and you might just discover a completely new way to connect. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you next time.